Indian Military Review, and the Center for Joint Warfare Studies organized a 2-day webinar and virtual expo on night vision and electro-optics India on 16 to the 19th of January 2021 for the Indian Armed Forces, Paramilitary Forces and Industry. The event covered thermal imaging, image intensifiers, infrared detectors, surveillance and reconnaissance, laser rangefinders, weapon sights, integrated helmets, periscopes and masts, NVDs for platforms, binoculars, goggles and monocles, and fire control systems. The Director General of Infantry, Director General of Capability Development, the Director General of Armored Corps and the Additional Director General of the Army Design Bureau were among the distinguished speakers. There were 7 sessions over 2 days and the video recording of the proceedings were rebroadcast over the next 2 days.
General Karanveer Singh Brar, Director General Armored Corps, General Anjan Mukherjee, General Arora, other distinguished participants, welcome back to the first session on day 2. And on day 1, as you all are aware, we had a very fruitful session. To begin with, the context was given by the DG Capability Development and the DG Infantry. And thereafter, a very informative session we had on emerging technologies, which gave us the benchmarks that we should be looking for. And then we moved on and saw the requirements of the Army, largely the infantry, and the Air Force and the Navy. And we closed the day with some very incisive recommendations as regards requirements for sub-conventional operations. So today also we have 2 very interesting sessions. And the first one would be what capabilities are required on various platforms for Army Aviation, for the Armed Corps, mechanized infantry, and the platforms for the Indian Artillery. And thereafter we will close the seminar's deliberations by having a look at what the research and development endeavors are. So today we have the inaugural session being delivered by General Karanveer Singh Brar, who has had a very distinguished career and is commanded an independent armored brigade and infantry division, has had varied exposures abroad in Congo as well as in South Sudan, and he has had tenures as a brigadier in the Director General of Mechanized Forces, as also now the Director General of Capability Development. So we couldn't have asked for a better person to be delivering the inaugural address. Over to you, General Brar.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. Good morning, General Srivastava, General Arora, General Mukherjee, all panelists who are there for the session, attendees, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to thank Center for Joint Warfare Studies for extending an invite to give this inaugural address for this, as I understand, WebEx. That is the webinar and the exhibition being conducted on night vision and electro-optics. I'm very sure, as just mentioned by General Srivastava, that the session already conducted and which will be conducted today will be very useful for all of us, especially who are in capability development, the serving officers, the scientist community and the industry who are watching, and even the DRDO. Saw that there's an active participation of DRDO also in this WebEx. As mentioned, I have some experience in the procurement cycle, and one has been involved in WE and in Secretariat. So for the inaugural address, I thought I will just give some broad issues which actually impact how this technology comes into use by armed forces. There are some basic issues which actually most of us would be aware of, but I'll highlight some of the key ones. Well, to start my talk, since it is night vision, but just going back to night vision, it in fact started in World War II when infrared spotlights were switched on and there was spokes, and the IR lights were so large that they had to be mounted on trucks. So that was the size of IR lights. Then, of course, a lot of progress has been made, and we saw thermal imaging sites coming during the Kuwait War or the Desert Storm. Uh, Now, of course, the effort is to reduce size, weight, power requirements, costs, enhance life of the equipment, improve your resolution through your infrared, shortwave, fusion technology, etc., etc. All that would be talked of. But as I said, uh, I will like to touch on some key issues which impact use of this technology in warfare, and especially in our context, that how and what are the issues which I think we need to concentrate on at the policy and the decision making level, because some of these issues are very, very essential, that even if we have technology, somehow miss the bus uh, in some cases. The first point which I like to highlight is, uh, which is a well-known point, the innovator or the industry or the scientist and the user interface. You see, while we have technology or people are developing technology, but here I like to point it out to the user. The user needs to understand how to use this technology. This is one thing which, because if he is not able to guide the innovator or the scientist what exactly is required, we'll waste a lot of time and money. However, a lot of progress has been made in this regard. We have this institution of ADB which has come up. We have now some other measures being conducted. And of course, this webinar is also a step in the right direction. But this is a very, very basic and a key issue, that it has to be a two-way traffic in which the user needs to understand how to use the technology. And likewise, the innovator also needs to know what he has to develop for the user. Because most of our innovators and scientist community are developing something for which they are not very sure of. So we have to have clarity both ways. Next issue I'd like to highlight is that now, since the topic is NVDs, but it applies to all technology, that any NVD or any single-use technology which we have been using is now not a standalone device. For example, any NVD is ultimately going to be used for either targeting, surveillance, IFF, or something else. So there has to be integration of the technology which you are developing with its ultimate use. If the scientist or the developer doesn't understand that, then the standalone development may not be put to much use. Therefore, there needs to be some kind of a systems integrator in which he can package all this technology and give it a product. And this is also essential, like one is from the Armored Corps and the Mechanized Forces. For space management, you need to integrate technology. And here I always give a good example of a mobile phone. Now, mobile phone has integrated, I think, so many technologies, and in about 9 inches, it gives you everything. You have a camera, you have a GPS, you have a communication system, you have a computer, anything which you name it is there in the mobile. So this kind of a thing of integration of everything, because there are commonalities, there has to be computation, because everywhere now there's a computation, there's a media there. So we need to combine all this technology. And as I said, in tanks, we have developed these technology individually. So we fit in a NVD, then we fit in a fire control system, then we fit in a communication harness. So each of these are developed separately. So there's no space. So that I'm giving example of tank. It applies to everything. In fact, artillery, AD, infantry also for weight and other consideration. The next point which I need to kind of highlight is, I'm using this word, is called synergizing technology. Now, we can, since we know that all our forces are now integrating, we hear the words of theater commands and other things which is coming in the media also. We need to synergize technology at the services level, in the sense that, the technology requirements are almost similar. The requirements may vary to size, resolution, other things, but they can't be a separate technology for armor, there's separate technology for infantry or RT. The same requirements are there, the specs may vary. And commonality of equipment for economics has to be there. There have to be common protocols and standards. So all this thing is again very necessary when industry is looking at profits. And we actually are looking at technology being imbibed by the armed forces. Next issue, which I think is the requirement of the hour, which I want to highlight, is there's a requirement of a disruptive technology. Why I'm saying this is because, we have been slightly slow to incubate the technology into the defense industry, and we are slightly lagged behind, and we have largely been dependent on imports. So now this handicap at the moment can be overcome if we develop a disruptive technology which will propel us ahead of all the technology advanced countries, or at least at par. So I will not call it a disruptive, but like the UAVs which have come in now they are changing the way things are happening. Of course, they still have a long way to go. I'm slightly of the view that it is a one-off incident. It cannot draw right lessons, but something in these lines which will propel you ahead of all others. So requirement of, and I feel our country has that capability to develop something. Again, it is more of interaction and guidance between all of us, that how can we develop something which will take the country and the defense industry much forward. Next point which I want to again state is that we are developing all these technology, but definitely we need to look at our adversary also, because the adversary is also developing some things. So if we are developing in a standalone and isolated mode, we need to develop those technologies, because those technology which would counter his or enhance ours. So we need to be in sync, especially our adversary to the north. He is quite good at backdoor entries and developing things. And he's definitely going to use technology, and possibly a direct confrontation would be avoided by him at all costs. And he would use this non-contact warfare means to, of course, try to subjugate his opponent. Therefore, that is one thing. And as also, this is a countering something which is being developed as a counter to your technology. Now, if you are developing TI and all these NVD and electro-optics, there are many countermeasures which are coming in now, which all of us are aware. I mean, starting from the basic of an IR paint to signature management to camo techniques, in which the signature of your platform changes, to sending out thermal wafers and all those other things which are coming. So if we need to be ahead, these counter measures, this is a fight which keeps on happening, that who goes ahead, and that of course is the requirement of the hour. Next point which I want to highlight is for the industry, while we address all sessions for future technology, future requirements, but there's a large part of equipment which is not state of the art. Even the most modern countries, even the US, which we consider the most modern, also has a sizable size of equipment which it cannot just discard. It needs upgradation. Therefore, it is not always the requirement of the hour to have the latest. Of course, that is the requirement, but there's a need to upgrade. And in army also, we have a large equipment which is need of upgradation. It just can't be thrown away. So this upgradation also has to come as part of the any technology development. For example, if I have to highlight in night vision devices, electro-optics, there is requirement to upgrade so that, we have the older systems of IR and all in some of the equipment which needs upgradation. And they will also help in saving in cost to the Indian Army. And these upgrades may not be state of the art or futuristic, because the expensive and the futuristic state of the art would be on only the critical frontline equipment. So here is a business opportunity also for the industry. While we should always look at disruptive technology and what is happening, there are also some simple solutions which are required for upgrading the current equipment to the level in which it can at least sustain for the next 5 to 10 years till the time so this cycle has to be maintained. So the industry needs to, in that regard, see that also. As also, of course, everybody is talking next point, I feel artificial intelligence is need of the hour, because now with so many weapon systems which are coming in, it is humanly impossible for one person as a gunner in RT or AD or even a tank man or even infantry soldiers to find out. He needs help of the artificial intelligence to tell him that the target is at so and so location, and the artificial intelligence should also help him destroying that target. Again, taking example of a tank, because tank is a target for multiple weapon systems now. It is a target for the tank itself. It is a target for the missiles. It is a target for PGNs, drones, air attack. So all these are all coming onto the tank. Now it is impossible for one gunner of the tank to target all this. So he needs AI to identify friend and foe. He needs AI to target his anti-aircraft towards something coming from the air, a missile being tracked on this, a lock-on, multiple lock-ons. So all that thing can only happen if you have computation to a very high degree, or in normal terms, what is being called as an artificial intelligence. In a swarm drone concept also, which I think was just shown during Army Day, again, if a swarm of drones have to interact and carry on an operation, artificial intelligence is the need of the hour. So therefore, I felt that these few issues which need to be addressed, because while we have people who have the know-how, we also have the requirement, but somehow in the policy and decision making, these issues need to be addressed at all levels by all stakeholders, because what we are developing ultimately, it should come into our army for use. So unless and until it comes into the army for use, the effort of the industry and all these sessions will slightly go waste. Therefore, since being an inaugural address, I'm sure the sessions following will be very, very educative. To conclude, I really feel, because I was, as mentioned, was also part of the initial setting of the ADB, and we were going all around. There is capability, we need to just harness that. However, achieving both this capability and capacity is only possible with, as I said, with proper planning and ensuring that there's a clear and coherent way ahead and understanding of all the stakeholders. And of course, we need synergy of the armed forces, the DRDO, industry, and all others. And self-reliance and Make in India is the only way forward. So I thank General Srivastava and Shenjos and General Arora once again for inviting me for this small talk in the inaugural session, and look forward to some good discussion and innovative ideas. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, General Brar, for those very, very incisive observations, and they will guide our deliberations over the next two sessions. You have very, very clearly highlighted the importance of the user having the necessity for the user to be very clear-eyed about what the requirement should be, and then what are the areas where the technology should be taking us, and as to how also we should not be always looking at the transformative, disruptive technology. There is a requirement for here and now requirements, to modernize, to be able to meet our current challenges. So there is an opportunity for the industry there also. So thank you so much, General Rao, for those observations. I am sure everybody has taken note of them.